welcome everybody to day 5 on the 9-day challenge. So even though we're at day 5, there are still 4 days to come, no matter the outcome of what happens today. And of course, we're going to be announcing the winner of our $10,000 scholarship. And for some of you who have been watching and listening along and maybe recognizing that, you know what, to move forward and really go from invisible to influential, trusted authority, particularly if you are going to be leveraging a podcast, or for some of you, you may already have launched a podcast and it's not quite generating the results that you had hoped for, that maybe this is the best choice for you too. So we're welcome, but we'll speak a little bit more about this in a moment. This has been an incredible week or a number of days, 5 days for me as well, because, you know, and each of you are coaches and consultants as well. And there's nothing more thrilling than sharing an insight that you've learned, that you've implemented yourself and in your own business have seen results. And then for others to have ahas as well. We know that's why we're coaches, isn't it? This is why we love to do what we do, to make an impact, a much bigger impact in the world. There are more insights and ahas to come. So we're going to bring that all together today because I've shared a lot. I'm sure you would agree that I've shared a lot. A lot of it has been the key things that you need to know. And now we want to take a pause because we want to build that out for you. That I could share many more things, but I just don't want to overwhelm. These things that I taught over the last 4 days, and kind of the mindset stuff we'll be talking about in the coming week, next week, could enable many of you to do a shift in your business that would position you to accelerate your results instantaneously, because sometimes you just need to tweak a little message and it lands so well that your ideal clients who have been stalking around you often realize, you know what, I think that this is the best move for me. So today we're going to announce the winner of the Invisible to Influential Trusted Authority with a podcast 12-month acceleration program valued at $10,000. And I'll be sharing exactly what they have won. So for those of you who are watching and listening and thinking, is this me? These are the things that you are going to be winning. And by doing that too, for some of you, you can then dive a little bit deeper so that you can understand exactly what I will be covering in the 12 months. It's taken me a little while to put all of the components together to make sure that it is, depth. We do rich teachings to really help you. And I love one of the ahas that someone shared, and I'm going to share those ahas in a moment. And it really is the optimal path forward to go from invisible to influential trusted authority, the choice versus just a choice. And there's things that need to be in place when you're thinking about trusted authority, being that influential voice, that thought leader. Remember, I'm talking about not being better than everyone else. We're not saying that. We're saying that you're better placed to support your ideal client. We're going to recap these briefly because I know some of you are only just catching up, and I want you to dive into the trainings because they're going to be live. The recordings, I should say, they will be on our page, Podcasting with Purpose. However, I will be taking them down probably mid to next week. In day 1, we talked about the 3 indicators you're not yet ready to launch a podcast. Just hold off for a moment. Let's build some core foundations first. We've talked about 4 podcasting mistruths, the 7 common podcasting mistakes, and I've made all of them and then some common branding mistakes, the myths and mistakes. We talked about what is the definition of distinguishable, uncopyable, irresistible. What does that mean in the context of becoming an influential, trusted authority? We talked about the podcasting positioning quadrant and where that sat, the trusted authority quadrant piece. And we talked about the distinction model. And that model, when you follow the blueprint and start to put into place and have clarity around each of the components, this is what's going to help you go from invisible to influential, trusted authority. And for some of you, you've realized, oh, I kind of have that piece, need to dig a little bit deeper into that. That's a huge gap. that's an aha and a win for you, because now you've got self-awareness on where you want to focus your attention. Day 2, we talked about how to transform your expertise from a want to a need, from an overwhelming number of choices to becoming the only choice, so that you can also take that knowledge and the content that you have each and every time that you release a new episode, or maybe a series of episodes, you have a binge-worthy podcast, because your ideal client cannot wait to listen, and probably will listen to it a couple of times. And it positions you as that trusted authority that your ideal client wants to work with. How do we do that? Well, we talked about the distinction model, and how when we talked about message, that authenticity is so important. It's not a buzzword. Those people who do say that it's a buzzword and don't really, I don't really think they understand and appreciate the essence, the true essence of what authenticity is. You go and ask someone who has the branding archetype as explorer, like I do myself, and I know Laurie is here. She is as well. Authenticity, it's who we are. We live and breathe that, because why would you want to be anyone else than yourself? You just need to dig deep and find out what that unique and irresistible factor of you, and blend that all together. That's what authenticity is. We talked about less is more, not to overwhelm, not to underwhelm. Let's unlearn some of that incredible jargon that we know as coaches. If you're working with coaches or speaking to some coaches, then we can use all of the different terms and techniques. We can geek out on that. But when it comes to our message, not so much, because our ideal clients, they don't know what we're talking about. And let me be honest, and I don't want to be rude when I say this. You may have heard others say this before. They don't actually care about the names of your techniques or what it is. They just want you to help them to get through whatever it is, the challenge that they're working through. We talked about your umbrella statement, your invisible thread, your signature sayings and slogans. And I know a number of you have had ahas in each of those particular areas. Day 3, we talked about don't leave tens of thousands, or for some of you, you realize hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table, but rather taking that information, nurturing and building long-term client relationships along the customer journey that lead to profitable and sustainable business growth. It takes time. It takes the foundations. You don't build, as I mentioned, I think yesterday, you can't build a house and put the walls up and then the roof on if you haven't got key foundations in place and the footings in place. And for some of you, you might have to put, stuff in the footings before you put the footings down, because it's just not going to be able to be sustainable and scalable, because many of us, we are the experts and the specialists, and there's only one of us. And so there were things that we talked about, the methodologies, your intellectual property. Some of you have got content that is still in your head that when you get it out, not only are you going to impact the world, but you're going to be able to certify other coaches in that, to be able to take that message out into the world and in an even bigger way. And so you just don't know till you start unpacking it and putting it together in the right way. We talked about how not to leave all of that money on the table, while also positioning yourself and your offering as the choice that people get excited. Your ideal client gets excited. And yesterday we talked about the power of momentum, and the car. How many of us have different cars that we're pushing? Well, guess what? When we're not pushing and continuing to build on the momentum that we've built on those cars that we've started pushing, they're going to come to a standstill, which is why many of us as coaches who don't have the systems in place, and we're not, feeding that momentum in the right way, our business is going to come to a halt, and we feel like we have to restart everything time and time over again. When you build momentum, it's how to attract and generate that steady flow of clients that come right to your door, and not just any clients, ideal clients, so you never have to chase again. And I'm not just pulling that word out of my head because it sounds good. You would have heard me share Kashmira's success story. And guess what? Tomorrow, I've actually got an interview that I did with Kashmira, because I think my program's pretty amazing as well. We all do, don't we, as coaches? But if we see it through the lens of a client who has gone through it, our programs, and the impact that it has made in their lives, that is, I think, really super special. So, and Kashmira is pretty super special. All of my clients' community is super special. And if no one's told you that lately, I think you're super special just for being here. And I just know that you are, which is why you were attracted. It's led you into this incredible community that we're building. And success breeds success. Success leaves clues. So come on back tomorrow, rewatch the replay. I won't actually be live. I've pre-recorded it, but I want you to hear her story. But what she said, which was so incredibly exciting for her, is that she's gone from 80% hustling and 20% working in her business. So the hustle, the marketing, the sharing of content, how exhausting is that? Going to meet all of those different things, completely switching that around to now 90% working with clients, 10% the hustle, kind of doing the things, and getting even more clients, longer term projects. And the reason is that the things that I've been sharing about you, she's changed the outlook of her content. It is rich, it is deep. When she holds up her quiz and her program offering, people are going, what's this? What do you do? I think I need to talk to you. That's the kind of things that starts happening when you put the pieces of the blueprint that we talked about into place. We talked about business momentum defined, understanding the customer journey, and how many clients are in the buying zone, the 3 different stages. One of the things that we didn't cover was what sort of content do I need to share in the awareness stage, and then in the consideration stage, and then in the decision-making stage. There's a sequence, there's a strategy, there's intention. We talked about why it's important of building momentum to build that. And of course, your digital asset, your irresistible signature giveaway, which was the quiz. There were so many ahas. I've kind of crammed them there, but I love Laurie was saying, just noticing the importance of putting the foundations in place. It is key. It starts to flow, and that's the moment when the moment occurs. Love the framework. Karen had a couple of ahas and had such a long one. I had to cut it off. I mean, go back into the group. And have a read of those. But Karen said, one of my aha moments out of many was your story and how your friend hired someone else because she forgot what you did because you were talking too much about social media. Don't water down your message. For those of us who are multi-passionate, we love lots of things. And I think a lot of you are here because you resonate with that. How do we put that all into one succinct message? And Karen said that she needs to be careful not to water down her current business message by talking on too many things that aren't her current business message. Umbrella statement is so key. Another ahas, using the quiz really helps them see a need, starts building the relationship to get them to know, like, and trust you, shows them how much you can help them, gives them the value in seeing the type of framework and that they need and will be getting from you. Absolutely. Now, one of the other reasons I share ahas is because, again, remember, success leaves clues, that for some of these ahas, these also need to be ahas for you too, and the things that you need to be building into your business. I know as coaches, and this is kind of on top of the story of Kashmira, many of us, we don't want to be spending a lot of times in the sales conversation. I mean, obviously we need to find out, are they a good fit? Am I able to support them? Because I know as coaches, we want to make sure that when we do onboard a client and work with a client, we're going to be able to support them in not only generating great results, but results that exceed their expectation. And so we need to have those conversations to be able to ensure that we can do that. That's important. But we don't want to have to go and try and convince and overcome objections and all of those things. There may be questions, certainly, that our clients have as part of their buying process, but I'm talking about those icky conversations, that we don't want to be in. Well, guess what? You won't need to have any of these icky conversations because you won't be attracting the wrong client. The clients who see the value in the content that you share, who are intrigued, who are compelled to take that next step, most likely are your ideal client, so that when you're having a conversation with them, they've got a couple of questions in their minds that they need to answer and clarify. You have as well. And when you finish the conversation, if there's a meeting in the middle and it's a yes from both of you, then off you go. And that's what happens when you start to position your influential, trusted authority content as a way to really support them. So you won't have to have those icky sales conversations again. Nirja, today the word that attracted me was simple. Yes, simplifying your message is important so that it is consistent, the power of momentum. Less is more. When we go through, in fact, someone I was working with just recently put together the signature system, and then went through it with the lens or through the lens of less is more. And she realized that there is lots that she wants to share, that this amount is going to be great. And who knows, she may just have created a succession program where the next stage, these clients who've experienced incredible success will want to continue to work with the next level. How many coaches have we identified and we weren't quite yet ready to work with them, and they started talking about their high-end program? You think, I'm going to be in that program one day and I want to be on stage with them, or virtual stage. We just have that idea, don't we? That's the kind of thing you want to create in your business. Nia just said, and I love this one, another aha is, and what I had expected from the beginning of the challenge, you're talking about way more than a podcast. It's about whole business and clarity about it. And I just, hang on, let's see if this is the one. I clapped on the inside. And the reason being was that is exactly what this is all about. It is more than just launching a podcast that becomes, unfortunately, a bright, shiny object. There's business building. It's for coaches and consultants. There's a different focus that we need to get on in place, or in place first. Okay, Anne said, great training as always, Anne-Marie. My takeaway this time was that my message probably isn't clear enough. Also a reminder about jumping back and forth hurts the momentum, that we need that to focus on the right thing, the right message to get the results we want. Absolutely. And Sarah says, my aha, doing a quiz and neuroscience lesson on the benefits to having a podcast. That's right. So video takes up far more energy in the brain than what a podcast does. And when you think about the energy that we use through with the Zoom, we were talking about the video and Zooming. That's why we now have a term called Zoom fatigue. People get fatigued when they watch, or more chance of being fatigued when they're watching videos. So why not create an audio only podcast as well as a video one, but the audio one is going to allow people to listen longer. All right, we've still got other things to come. I just want to briefly say this is not just the end. We get to hang out together more, day 6, which is tomorrow. This is the interview with Kashmir Modi. She goes much deeper into some of the things that she's learned, but you'll also hear, again, the way that she's speaking about her business, what she has found is so important, so that you can start to think about, well, I need to be able to do that as well. So again, success leaves clues. Day 7, this is a replay of some of the highlights of day 1 to 4 for even more learnings. Remember, I talked about layered learning. Day 8, which is my Monday, there are some powerful mindset shifts. There's some things that I want to bring to your attention to help you go from underpaid coach and consultant to highly paid, influential, trusted authority, the choice versus just a choice. As I mentioned, there's often some mindset shifts that we need to go through. And I'm going to talk about some money mindset shifts. I haven't even covered anything of that. One of the modules that, and I'll share a little bit in a moment, that we will go through, especially when we're building our legacy and really building that income and offerings, we need to think about, where is our money mindset? What is our money beliefs? And we're going to be talking a little bit about money archetypes. Which one are you? And then day 9, there may be some questions that you still need me to answer. And so I'll be answering some of those live, or if I've got questions that will come in, because what I don't want to have happen is for you to miss out on this group of people going through. This is the first time I'm running this in the 12-month sequence, which means that I'm going to be, and I always do anyway in my programs, be there hand holding you every step of the way. I've got some things planned, such as, let's just say, for those of you, just a little bit of a hint. I was thinking about this last night as I was going to bed. Imagine if, as you launch your podcast, we do like a panel and we bring it to the world, we stream it live, where each of you can share this with your audience, which means you're going to get even more exposure. And we share what your podcast is, how they can listen to it, how they can come to, all of your communities and things like that. You know how you have summits? Well, let's do a virtual podcast launch summit to celebrate alongside you. So these are just some of the things that I have got planned that, I haven't actually even specifically documented in the program. And I don't want you to be thinking in a month's time, oh, I wish I had said yes to myself. So I want to make sure that I answer your questions so that it is a definite yes. And if it is a definite no, if it's not right, then I get that. But you may just not want to miss out on all of the goodies coming your way. So if you can go from I'm hesitant to start. What if no one listens? How do I come up with topics consistently? What do I need to focus on first? I don't want a podcast that sounds the same as everyone else. How can my podcast stand out? And all of those different things to this. So many ahas. I couldn't fit them all in on the page here. There were a lot of ahas, which is really exciting. So imagine what's possible through all of those ahas. And this is not really diving deep into the content and getting feedback and developing yours and getting feedback on that. And then having ahas, even further ahas in a paid program. And that is exactly what I will share with you in a moment. So the last 4 days, you've recognized this, is that you need to have all of the key components of the distinction blueprint in place. You realize that that's what has to be there to be able to go from invisible to influential trusted authority, to build that momentum. And that starts with the core business foundations. It really does. And you've seen me share my blueprint, so you know that it is your lucrative niche, your signature brand, your signature system, your signature programs, your digital asset, which is the quiz. That's important. You've got to have that in place. And you can build a lovely multi-six-figure business just with that core foundations without even layering a podcast on top of that. But then you realize when your core business foundations are in place, then you can layer a robust podcast strategy. And then follow the formula, follow the framework, follow the pipeline so that you create an opportunity to walk alongside your ideal client when you're not even there through listening to the podcast. Each podcast episode is intentional. Each piece of content is intentional. It seeds and leads people along that customer journey, but not just any people, your ideal people, your ideal client. And so that's why I want to really introduce. So one of you is going to win everything that I'm about to share. It is the Invisible to Influential Trusted Authority with a podcast 12-month acceleration program with these core programs in place. And the Core Business Foundation, I just had to, she just keeps surprising me, but she has been saying, and she said to me, the Core Business Foundations program should be part of Entrepreneur Toolkits or MBA colleges because it is a complete training. So thank you for sharing that, Kashmira. Kim, she's recently gone through the PWP, which is the idea to launch. And she said, starting up and sustaining a successful podcast needs a thought out strategy, systems just to support it, along with the technical know-how. Be Fit to Sit podcast. She is a physiotherapist, would not have made it to air without PWP and Anne-Marie. And so it's exciting. So as you see, it's not just a podcast. It is a podcast that helps build business, build brand. So you've got a choice. You got a choice. 2 options, do it yourself, figure it out as you go, remaining maybe the world's best kept secret as you continue to go through the motion of trial and error on your own. Or you can fast track that momentum building and the building of your business through focusing on the right strategy, the systems, the mindset with clarity and confidence, with me by your side every step of the way to support you in becoming that influential, trusted authority. All right. Let's see what's involved. And I just wanted to share Nirja's aha because it is so true. I have suspected, she said, that from the beginning of this challenge, you're talking way more about just a podcast. It's about the whole business and clarity around it. And remember when I first started the first day of day 1 of this challenge, someone had asked a question in this group, is there a difference between podcasting and podcasting as a business? And I answered yes, yes, yes. And I'm sure all of you who have been with me and have watched the recordings or been live in each of the 4 days, you realize there is a lot to be put in place first before you launch your podcast. So this is how I've developed the program. There are different stages. And each stage, there's 4 stages, and each stage is a 90-day sprint. We are focused on 90 days. There is studies done on 90 days, and the 3 months goal setting and getting into rapid action and focusing on that. The first sprint that we are working on is those core business foundations. And this really is your pathway to a profitable and scalable business. You're laying those key foundations. Once you've got those key foundations in place, we then move forward to the next 90-day sprint, and we will work on launching your podcast from idea. Now, you've already got a lot of ideas because you're drawing on those ideas from what you've built in the foundations, the first 90 days. But we are going to take you from idea to launch your podcast so that you can start to nurture listeners into leads from your very first episode. Because listen, this is how it works. Remember, I said to you, we start building momentum, the power of momentum with the quiz. That's great. Then when we launch your podcast, we layer on top of that. The next step is to develop a 3-part podcast series, which becomes another opt-in, and actually the same opt-in, that you will actually walk through that quiz alongside your ideal customer, giving them some even more information. You're layering their learning, not overwhelming, to the point where you are working through that and building content through that consideration phase. And then at the end of that, with your 3-part series, we move into the decision stage and we map that out and develop that for you. That's why I meant, when I mentioned the pipeline in the 3-part episode, I hinted at that and I shared that with you. That is because that is what we are going to be working on, as well as your overall podcast strategy. But it's layered content, layered foundations that we're building on so that you have an opt-in, your irresistible signature giveaway that is out there for your ideal client to access, to get to know, like, and trust you, to get excited about you, to binge listen to those episodes, to take everything that you've been teaching them, and then they cannot wait to find out more, all while you're doing something else, while you're asleep. That's what can happen. Then we've launched your podcast. Then what? Well, there are other things that you can have in place to really, because remember, you want to be that influential, trusted authority. So there's things that you can build into that. And stage 3, I'm actually going to share a little bit about some of the topics we cover in that. But day 3 is where we're building your legacy in phase 1. There's 2 phases to that as well. This is where we're continuing to build momentum and impact that you have just built so that you don't have a car that started to move and then all of a sudden you get distracted. No, we're going to continue to build that on that momentum. Then in stage 4, which is phase 2 of the Build Your Legacy, that 90-day sprint is when we're going to scale everything up to influence and then to income, which is why we want to do this in a 12-month program. And because we do that together, focused in those 90-day sprints, that's where that acceleration comes. There's going to be strategy, helping you to clarify and remain focused on the right steps in the right sequence at the right time. Some of you might need to, dive a little bit deeper into one area, others are fine. And that allows you to kind of move forward and build those foundations. But it's done to where you're at in your business and focused on what you need to get into place. At each stage with the 90-day sprint, each module is, as I mentioned, individually important, but collectively crucial. So we want to make sure that all of those steps are in place before you miss or move on to the next step, because if you miss one step, it can negatively impact all of the other steps. So for those of you who are building some of these things, the group and myself particularly is going to go through all of those things to make sure that, yep, it's good. It's good. Now go out and see what the audience is giving you feedback with that, your community. There's training, there's templates, so you can save time, money, frustration by knowing exactly what you need to focus on in what right order. There's step-by-step training and templates and checklists, and an empowered mindset too, because you can have all of the strategy and training and templates in the world, but if you don't have the right mindset, you can still get stuck, which is why we'll be spending just as much time focused on the right mindset to power you forward. So even though I mentioned that one of the things we'll be covering in stage 4 is diving deeper into that money mindset issue or mindset beliefs, we're actually going to find out, well, what is your money archetypes right at the beginning, so that you've got, and of course your branding archetypes too, because we want to be clear on what are some of the things that could keep you stuck, so that we know what that is and we can give you some empowered ways to shift forward, to break through those unhelpful beliefs that may come up from time to time. So, and so the whole way through, you'll know that there's going to be accountability, there's going to be support, coaching and mentoring to support you. And Sherry, she went through and she's still part of the Influence Alliance, which is wonderful. And when she went through one of our programs, she said, I want to thank you for just how much you're giving us of your time. Nobody else does this. When I looked at your schedule, I went, wow. And this is focused business building attention. And so if you need me to be there to support you, I am there. And the way that we structure the program does this. So let's have a look at core business foundations. The lucrative niche is where you identify not just any niche, but a lucrative niche, so that you can then have a highly targeted message that speaks to your ideal client, and that they are there, therefore building awareness of you, your services. You're going to be able to, when you have everything in place, and especially with the message, build your database, your list of prospects, those ideal clients that you know that you're going to be able to support through having that powerful and influential marketing message that's relevant to your needs, and be able to turn prospects into customers far more easily, because you have that highly targeted, relevant and irresistible message that your ideal client will love and want more of. So important, and so often we miss out. So that when we then build the signature brand, and I love this part because so often people have, oh my goodness, remember we talked about authenticity? Well, we will understand and clarify what that is for you. When you identify what is my primary archetype, what is my influencing archetype, what is the balancing archetype, and bring that all together. It attracts attention, opportunities, and high-paying clients. And Kashmira shares a little bit more about how she uses the archetypes to help her do copywriting and all of that as well. So unlock your powerful, authentic personality and inner brilliance to create an instantly recognizable presence, because no one else can do you. But often we don't know how to do us because we're not clear on what makes us unique and special. And that's going to attract your ideal clients and, of course, higher paying opportunities. Create that heart and soul of your brand. I know as coaches, we want to bring that to the table, don't we? Because our business is more than just a business that we help. We're here to support and make a much bigger change in the world with our message and our offering, so that you become irresistible to your ideal clients. They could not work with anyone else because they feel so compelled to invest in you and your services because of what you stand for. And just the meaning that you create around all of that content. There's specific words that you can use in your marketing to attract and influence people that you want to work with. And guess what? There are some keywords too, which will dispel people who aren't your ideal client. And that's a good thing. As I said, you want to attract a community of your ideal client, your ideal audience. And so when that invitation is offered, they're going to step forward and say, yep, I'm going to go and take action. We talked about your IP. We shared about it in one of the workshops. Now we're going to dive deep into unpacking what that is for you, so that you really can rise quickly to that specialist statement with your unique, proven and profitable system that your ideal client loves. Capture what you do into the signature system so that clients will love and want to know more about that. You're then going to bring that to life in the podcasting. You're going to boost your credibility as that authority in your field, because often, because it's uniquely tailored and that branded system is yours, no one else in your industry is speaking about it the way that you do, with the examples and the insights and the models, all of that, because it showcases your ideal client. Remember I said promise of value, promise of expectation. So whether you've got workshops, webinars, courses, programs, you'll be able to far more quickly fill those. And for some of you, there's going to be a sequence in what you do too, starting off with maybe a 90-day or a 6-month program, and then developing that out into a 12. I'm not sure. We don't know. We haven't looked at your particular business model and program or clients yet, but they cannot wait to learn more from you to help them solve their problems once and for all. Then the programs, this is where you package them into those different offerings, and you can identify the most profitable and streamlined way to package, deliver your expertise. Now, clients that have gone through this previously in different iterations have doubled or even tripled their business because they focused on exactly what they needed. Remember that car, the right car, built that out, and then within months, they really noticed the difference. That's because they were not spread so thin. And with the concise, clear message and offering, more people were stepping forward because it was intriguing, compelling, and had an offer and an outcome that their ideal clients really wanted to get support in. You can create a streamlined set of offers. I think with Kashmira, I mentioned in, I think it was workshop 2, where she realized that she had, with her business offerings, some for beginning clients and some for end clients. There was nothing in between. There was no sequence of, and the sustainable retaining of clients. So she's filled in those gaps, which is probably one of the reasons why now she's generating more business from existing clients as well as new ones, because there's this beautiful program pathway that was not there previously. And this is something that for some of you, you may recognize when we go through this, that this is a big gap in your business too. Solving the number one complaint of business owners, guess what, is often overwhelm. And so you're not going to be confused and have too many offerings, be stretched too thin, and having that lack of clarity around what you have to offer or what you can offer. This is what we talk about in the module 4. And then module 5, your asset. We're going to build that for you. We're going to create that quiz so that you can use that in all of the different areas in your sales as well, and your marketing, build credibility as that go-to authority in your lucrative niche to showcase your expertise, continue to grow your list of prospective customers by compelling them to access your free offer so that they can learn more from you, nurture those key know, like, and trust factors with your prospective clients, increasing the likelihood of them saying, yes, 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 when can we get started? And so many of them, I'm sure, will say to you, I wish I had have said yes to myself, months ago or years ago. Imagine how much further I would be along. That's exciting. Okay, now we've built the core business foundations, and I'm not going to go too much in depth with the podcasting with purpose, the idea to launch, because obviously want to show you some of the things that we cover, but we're layering on top of the core business. So what this looks like, there are modules for setting yourself up for success. We're going to talk about some of the things that you need to avoid. There's going to be in that the industry thought leader ebook, From Invisible to Influential. You'll have that. Then we go into each of those models that I shared, the podcast positioning quadrant, the profit models, the formula, the framework, the funnel. You go through that, layering the content and the information that you've developed, going through all of the core business foundations. This is the information that you will be putting into the formula, the framework, as you continue to build that out, and the funnel and the pipeline. You won't have any guesses because there will be clarity around that. And then, of course, I'm here to support you, if you've got the questions as you're continuing to work. Then that's the setting up for success, the monetization aspect. Then we move into the message part, because we bring all of the things that you've developed now in the core business foundations. We take that up a level, because with your podcast, guess what? You have to bring your brand to life, don't you? And there's a difference between seeing things written in paper and actually bringing them to life. So we're going to define your thought leadership again, put that next layer on top. We're going to talk about the distinction triad. There's 3 components that I want to share with you. I didn't even get to talk about that in one of the workshops, because layered learning, you need to know these things first, but we're going to add even more value for signature brand archetypes. How do you bring that to life on a podcast, creating that unique listener experience? And then we're also going to look at naming your podcast too. Very important. Then we're going to talk about how are you going to monetize? What are the monetization strategies? These are the things that I do every day with my clients. Obviously, because you monetize your own message before you monetize anyone else's, which is why sponsorships is right down the bottom. Building brand awareness. How do you do that consistently? with your podcast, building your list with your ideal client. Guess what? You've already started to build these things anyway. So this is just layering and being more intentional. We're going to build relationships with guests because some of those guests will become clients. I've gotten off podcast interviews, and not that I intended to do this, but people have said, I think we need to hire you. I think we need to do this and that. That can be available when all of the things that you have in place. Then we're going to talk about building sponsorship relationships, internal sponsorships, and external sponsorships as well. Again, layer learning. Foundation module number 5. This is where we then, once you've got clear on those things, we start to map out your 3-part podcast series. This is the series that's going to be the opt-in that adds even more value to your quiz. But going through that process, we've got Ildi, we've got Sherry, we've got Lynn, we've got Adam, we've got Jan in there, just as some case studies on how they've used that as you kind of creating your own. Then we dive into creating your own. And as well as we've got there the podcast series opt-in setup, because the number of people that I've spoken to that have done that, they've gone and talked to their web guys or web people, and the web people go, don't actually understand that. So we've put together a training to show the web people so that they know how to support you in getting this set up. Because as I said, nobody else really is teaching this or training this. It's quite a new way of really leveraging your podcast to nurture listeners into leads. Then we talk about the core training where we brand you, your podcast, we define your ideal listener, we structure and format of your podcast. How do you come up with topics? Again, borrowing from the information we covered in the Core Business Foundation. How do you structure your show? There's some plug and play templates that I share with you. Now, I've just highlighted this connection formula here. This is key. This is something that I learned when I went through my NLP training. There's a lot of things that I incorporate in my teachings, especially with the podcast, that borrow from some of the tools and techniques that I learned from NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. And the reason being is that neuro-linguistic programming allows us to be influential communicators with people, and they don't even realize that we're doing that. And so this powerful 4-step connection process is following something that I learned through NLP. So some of you who are NLP trained and certified, you'll know the power in this, so that you're able to instantly engage and maintain your audience attention, no matter what their communication preference, whether they're visual people, whether they're kinesthetic people, the people that like to get their hands in and learning and the hows, if they're auditory digital or if they're audio. Guess what? Each of those preferences, those communication preferences, you need to hit the buttons. You need to tick the emotional and the way that they love to learn. And the way that we structure our podcast episodes follows that formula. So I teach you that process, and you can use it not only on your podcast, but how you present, how you create your training. I follow this 4-step connection process with all of my trainings as well as the podcast. There's a bonus scheduling podcast publication calendar, how to find and streamline your guests, how to set the stage, powerful interviewing techniques, the technology, the momentum building marketing. We create a whole event, or you'll be able to create a whole event, a launch event, to get people excited so that you're actually generating conversations and interaction with people. Some of those people will become your ideal clients down the track. And you've also got full access to a standalone course, which is my Interviewing with Purpose. You get full access to that course as part of this as well. So now you've launched your podcast. It's out there in the world, changing lives. And then when we move into stage 3, this is phase 1 of the Build Your Legacy, we talk about, here's the content, your 12-month strategic plan. We're really just going to check in now with your vision and mission. We're going to map out a 12-month marketing calendar for you, so that you're going to be able to look at how you're going to launch, what you're going to do, and your podcast topics that you share are going to add value to that. We're going to ensure that your podcast remains an integral lead generation plan, typo there, for your challenges, your launches, and your programs. We're going to talk about how you can turn one podcast episode into multiple authority building micro content, how to build visibility with podcast interviews and leveraging other people's audiences, bringing people back into your funnel, your pipeline. If I think back to some of the clients that I'm now working with, they are people that heard from me from other podcasts, and they have become clients and referrers as well. Because what often will happen is they'll access the content that you're sharing. They'll get into your funnel. They'll start to listen to your podcast, and then they're part of your world. And then before long, they become a client. I'm going to teach you how to set up the steps to do that. And then hiring team. This is so important because before we move into stage 4, which is taking that up a notch, there are some things that you need to be aware of and have in place so that you can expand your team and you're not doing everything yourself. And then stage 4, which is the building your legacy phase 2, we're going to dive in a little bit deeper because some of you are going to be working with customers and clients, and then you're going to realize that you have even a higher level offering, or you want to do things a little bit differently. Now you really want to start growing, group coaching programs or develop an even higher level offer. Guess what? As you're developing the strategy and the programs, we also need to up level your money mindset as well. So we're going to dive into addressing some of the money blind spots that have come up, that have shown themselves, powerful pricing strategies as you move forward, as you build and continue to build your business, practical money tools and tips, some exciting stuff. We're going to talk about strategic networking, how you can be even more strategic for lucrative collaboration and visibility opportunities, which you can then leverage your podcast as well. Crucial conversations that lead to ongoing business opportunities, powerful enrollment and sales conversations, because more of you are starting to have some fantastic conversations, and you may just need to tweak up some of those things too. So it's all about building, and layering those foundations. Part of that program too is going to have Q&A and spotlight and strategy coaching. You'll start off by having a private kickoff strategy call with me to set yourself up for success for the entire 12 months. Then throughout the program, there's also private coaching and strategy with me, feedback sessions at the beginning of each month as a bit of a check-in to see how you're going. And then again at the end of each quarter to ensure that you've kicked all of the goals, all of the things are in place. And your objections and all of those things, and objections as in these are the objectives, actually, that's another typo, at the end of the 90-day sprint. But there may be some things that come up that we need to kind of work through for you as well. But every week, I am in there, spotlight coaching as that group, and there can be a lot of learnings from others as well as you hear them go through different coaching calls as well. And then, we like to get stuff done, don't we? So every month we're going to have productivity power hour calls. We get into rapid action together. We're going to do that each and every month. There is a private client only Facebook group, get feedback and remain connected to me and other change makers. I must say though, the community that I have, we're getting stuff done. We may pop in and then we pop out. That's just kind of how we roll. So, but you may find that there are people in there that you kind of want to have an accountability partner or a buddy. Those are the kind of things that open up to as well. So this is what Kashmira has said about the program, and I'm going to announce the winner shortly. The Core Business Foundation program gives you the confidence to know what you need to focus on and what level of hustle that you need to do. Previously in my business, I was hustling 80% of my working hours, marketing, putting out content. Everything else was 20%. Today, I'm hustling 10% of the time, and I'm spending 90% creating value, serving clients, and I'm getting more bulk projects, not 1 or 2 short-term projects, but 6-month programs, along with higher level clients, projects and opportunities. So no longer am I feeling depleted, exhausted, and trying to get clients. The Core Business Foundations program should be part of the Entrepreneur Toolkit or MBA colleges because it is a complete training. Now, can I just share with you, this is the Core Business Foundations program, Sprint 1. Can you imagine when we layer the podcast and then layer phase 1 of the Build Legacy and then phase 2 of the Build Legacy on top of that? Piero Modestic, the exceptionality catalyst with over 2 decades of leadership roles across a multitude of industries in and out of marketing, branding and personal development and training seminars, left, right and center. That's what he's been in. Although the level of marketing and brand congruency was good, I'm now moving towards being uncopyable. And it's only been 2 months due to the clarity I've gained through Anne-Marie's coaching and mentorship. I just thought that I would share a few clients who have been through aspects of the components, the 90-day sprints. And Carolyn Mose, she has a podcast. She's a co-host a spending planner, Succeed with Money podcast. Having worked with coaches and marketing experts in the past, I highly recommend working with Anne-Marie. These last 12 months, she was part of not this one, but a different one, a program I had, has been pivotal turning point in putting strategy behind my business, understanding and working with my own strengths and weaknesses, and understanding the importance of having a vision, both short and long-term goals. Anne-Marie's commitment to her clients is second to none, providing informational webinars, regular Q&A sessions. She goes above and beyond and has a wealth of information for many years of experience, which she is more than willing to share. Thank you so much. I love all of my clients. All righty. Let's get into who is going to join me as part for the scholarship. I do hope that even if you did not win the scholarship, there's a few things that I want to say. Thank you so much for showing up, for the commitment that you have had every single time, whether you've showed up live or whether you have watch the recording, because each of those opportunities is an opportunity for you to layer learning. So I want to thank you for doing that for yourself, but I also want to thank you for being part of that community, for sharing your ahas. And I know that there's been a number of you that have actually gone through and you've hearted all of the other people's comments and things like that. So I think that is amazing. And so for some of you, even though you may not, your face may not appear in this next slide as the winner of the scholarship, but I hope that if you have found that you've really connected with this program and that you think that this is going to be what supports you and really up leveling everything that you've been working so hard for up until this time, that it is a yes for you too, and that we can be working with you in the next 12 months focused on really helping you go from invisible to influential trusted authority. So what I did, I'll share the process. Every single time someone has done an activity or shared an aha, I put a name in a drawer, in a bucket. But I just didn't want to, I wanted to give more opportunities for all of you. So what I ended up doing was I took out 3 names of the bucket, and then I took those 3 names and I gave it to my daughter, those names that I drew out, and I gave it to my daughter, and she drew out the last winner. So a number of you had, a couple of opportunities to be part of that. And this is the name that my daughter, she pulled out of the bucket this morning. Karen Crowell. So congratulations, Karen. You are the scholarship winner of the Invisible to Influential Trusted Authority with a podcast 12-month acceleration program. And we will be in touch with you to be able to onboard you and get that started for you. So again, this leads me to say, I'm not sure what specifically prompted you to attend today, whether you're just starting out in your podcast journey, you're starting to build your business and you're just not getting the results from your existing podcast, or you want to launch a podcast and you're just starting to be seen, or you're not being seen and you still feel invisible. And as I mentioned before, it's by no accident that you're here right now. And I'm a firm believer that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So the doors are open for those of you who want to go and have a look. We've actually created a very simple 1-page outline of what I have shared. Go and check that out. For some of you, you are going to be thinking, what next? Shall I? Shan't I? And so what we've also done too, for the next 24 hours, if you say yes to yourself, there's a program or a course that I've developed. It's a mini course called Breakthrough Your Money Dramas, Your Pathway to More Confidence, Clients, and Cash. Now, remember I said to you that it is so important to be able to look at what your money mindset is thinking. And even though we do that in stage 4 and phase 2 of the Build Your Legacy in the 12-month program, we're also going to start with that as well. And so this is included in the Money Breakthrough Drama course. The first module is Clearing Your Money Clutter. The second module is Scarcity or Abundance. You manifest what you focus on. Module 3 is your self-worth account. Are you depositing in your self-worth account every day, or are you withdrawing every day? Module 4, common money stories and beliefs that are keeping you stuck. Number 5, module 5, forgiveness, a key step towards financial freedom. Not many people talk about that when it comes to money. And you know, as coaches, how important this is. Module 6, building your self-worth or your self-value and self-worth to charge what you're worth and get it, attracting those clients who pay you what you're worth. Module 7, boost your self-confidence and your net worth. And module 8, claiming back your power with money. So for those of you who decide that this is the next best step forward, you get access to this. Or if you want to have a call with me, you're not really sure, my door is open. Let's have a chat to see if you're a good fit. And if you book your strategy session or your strategy call within the next 24 hours, you can also get access to the Breakthrough Your Money Drama e-course as well, which I think is going to be an incredible program or course to get you started looking at your money mindset. So reminder that there is still much content to come tomorrow. The success story with Kashmira, day 7, a replay of some of the highlights of each of the 4 workshops. Day 8, which is my Monday, powerful mindset shifts. We're going to talk about money mindset. We're going to talk about hinting about some of the money archetypes. For those of you who is a yes that you are in the program, you'll know exactly what your money archetypes are, and you'll know exactly what to do to look out for some of those money blocks. And then day 9, which is the Tuesday, I will be live again in the group. And day 8, by the way, is live too. I will be here in the group, in the Zoom room, on day 9, answering any other questions that you may have too, or the questions that we have got come through, because you might have a question that you might be a little bit hesitant to ask, and someone else has asked that. So I'll make sure that I answer